So today we're doing something a little different than usual. We've been tagged by My New Acres to do a collaboration that was started by CJM Farms on gardening, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So today we will be tagging His Way Homestead, KBL Texas Homestead, as well as Dirt Patch Haven. I'll put their links in the description below. Check them out. They're all great channels. And well, let's get started. So we moved from southern Ontario up to a little bit northern Ontario. And we noticed our first year, so I put in a garden, and by the end of that year, frost was coming and my tomatoes hadn't ripened yet. And this was very different for me. So we decided we needed a greenhouse to grow our tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers and melons and things like that. And so the good, I'm going to show you the greenhouse. So the difference in the greenhouse and outside the greenhouse is amazing. Like, our greens are doing absolutely incredible. And our tomatoes, we've been picking cucumbers in here for weeks now, making pickles, and our tomatoes are now starting to come on. So we've been picking those for a few days. We have some cherry tomatoes. More over there. In the back, we have our first beefsteak ripening. Getting a little cracking, but he's still ripening nonetheless. And over here, another slicer coming ripe. And we've had our drying tomatoes ripening for a while now. We've been picking them and just eating them fresh because there wasn't enough, but they're starting to be enough. So if I was doing this outside, my plants would still be quite small, and I probably wouldn't have much of a harvest, except maybe off the cherries, until later on. So it's been really nice to be able to have plants that are, I can't get it in here even, they're well above my head. Like, they're only about a foot from the top of the greenhouse now. And so they're doing really, really well. And this has been our experience of growing in the greenhouse in a zone basically 3B, 4A. Outside would be a completely different experience. We've been having zucchinis coming on for weeks now as well. Oh dear, we got a mammoth one again. And so with that, we make zucchini relish and we make zucchini burgers. We've enjoyed our beet greens. We've had kale and Swiss chard coming on for a long time in here. And we were able to have early lettuce. And now we have our amaranth already going to seed. And so we can collect the grain from that. So yeah, just a huge difference, huge difference. So the good, definitely, I feel, is the greenhouse. The bad is the pests. So because we've been in here with plants growing for a while, and the heat, the spider mites are coming on. Before that we had the cucumber beetles, but we prayed about that, and thank goodness the cucumber beetles did not kill the plants, but now the spider mites are slowly taking out the ones in the back. The other bad is we have, well, again, bugs. We have all kinds of bugs eating our, I've got to come out here and squish them. More bugs eating our ground cherries. There's always something around to eat something. Oh dear, these pickling cucumbers have gotten huge. And the chipmunks. Oh, the chipmunks. So the chipmunks. The chipmunks have been, we planted wheat here and oats over here, a bed of oats. We planted flax here for spinning, and we planted and I watched them start coming and taking it away and taking it away. And there was well over 30. And there's still more. So anyways, they took the grain. You can see we covered it finally. So that's why we had success there. But all over here, they just dug them up. And they planted them in my greenhouse, in the strawberry hanging baskets, that were on the ground that I hadn't hung yet. They planted it in with the beans, so they're farmers too. And you can see my oats. I've got very few of my hullus oats that I was hoping to grow. So they've pretty much dug up a lot. So definitely the bad is the bugs and the vermin. So the ugly is the weeds. I have a terrible habit of knowing that weeds can be useful, and so I let them grow even though they're in places that they shouldn't be. So this bed, raised bed in front of us here, is an edible flower bed. And so we have some bergamot coming on and some St. John's wort in the back. But we also have all kinds of nettle that I know is good for me, so I let it grow up because I plan on harvesting it, and then I don't get around to it, and then I don't weed it, and then it's like overpowering my plants. And so I have that same problem in the garden. Down the center of my garden is my weed row. Helps me to know the sorghum from the corn. So I just it's just a patch of weeds that literally has grown on the rocks that weigh down the ground cloth, and I can't pull it because it's smartweed and I know it's useful. And so I leave it, and then jewelweed in with my hascaps, and yeah. So there's a lot of useful weeds, but I need to learn to let them grow in other places and not in my garden. Like the curly dock. And then we usually have a few wild mustard that come up by themselves. And I always say to myself, well, you know, these things might be used later. The wild cucumber vine that grows so readily, and I initially thought was so lovely, it was so pretty. So I let it grow, and now it's spreading everywhere. We have the wild primrose, which in its own place would be pretty, but not so pretty in front of my lettuce bed. The volunteer amaranth that came back, that's in the path in the front. And of course, in my carrot bed, there was so much purslane. And I just couldn't possibly weed purslane because it's so good for you. So those are the ugly. They don't make the beds look pretty, but I still find a use for some of them. The very ugliest of all that wins the prize is the burdock. That never seems to get cut down in time around here. Don't forget to check out all the links in the description of all the other homesteads. Check out their good, bad, and ugly videos. Have a great day.